bed and threw on the first dressing gown I saw, playing out every explanation for the store cat's behaviour in my mind's eye. Each grew more far-fetched than the last. Pan might hate me, but his affection for Alastair was unquestionable. Whatever had driven him to me must have been something terrible indeed. The Greater Lindworm's army risen again, House Pendragon under siege, Tekari at the gates. I shook my head. If I valued my sanity, I couldn't let myself think like that. And in any case, Alastair's leather armour still hung in its place on the wooden mannequin next to the wardrobe. He and his younger sister, Juliana, usually rose early for their morning exercises, but she had been away in Edenall for the last few weeks. Whatever called him away wouldn't be too dangerous, surely. The thought withered in my brain almost as soon as it flowered. My husband had once put the solitary tracking and slaying of mountain griffins down as casual exercise. Please, please don't be hunting griffins, Alastair, I thought, as Pan bounded toward the opposite end of the room. Not on our honeymoon. Our bedchambers opened out onto a shuttered balcony with stairs leading down to the sparring courtyard below. It was brighter outside where the first streaks of true daylight fell in silvery patches across the stone. Old fears crowded into my mind, staining memory with images of Alastair as he lay dying in the lodge at Northfields, his face bloodless, the whites of his eyes veined with black from the poison of the Greater Lindworm. Pan meowed again. I looked down and breathed out a white cloud sigh of relief. Alastair sat on the ground in the centre of the courtyard, shirtless and unmoving, but otherwise unharmed. I followed Pan down the stairs, feeling foolish for my panic and wishing all sorts of ills on my guide. Alastair was fine. House Pendragon still stood, and the stupid storecat had robbed me of 3 hours of sleep. At the bottom of the stairs I paused, much to Pan's displeasure, which I ignored. Marriage had brought me many titles: Lady Daired, Mistress of House Pendragon, and wife to the foremost rider in the kingdom. But I was an artist first and forever, and Aliza Daired was worth a moment of silent admiration. He sat cross-legged on the pavement, head raised a little toward the mountain peaks beyond the high walls of the house. A breeze moved the rider's plait that hung over his shoulder, night black against warm brown. Shadows fell along his back where scars both new and old textured his skin, white lines and red burns, and one yellowish crescent curving just under his shoulder blade. Memories of battles won and lost, they told the stories of years, each scar tied to an adventure, and at least one dead Tekari. I'd already memorized the patterns. More than once since our marriage, I'd woken in the middle of the night with a pounding heart and a scream in my throat, fighting off imaginary lamias as I waded through the ruins of Marybourne Manor, ankle-deep in blood. Almost 2 months now, and the nightmares still plagued me, and though adjusting to the waking world had gotten easier, I still found myself turning to Alastair on those nights. Odd as it was, his scars comforted me. I'd trace the patterns and contemplate the man sleeping next to me. Warrior, dragon rider, hero of Arle, and marvel at the fact that not only had he survived, but he was mine. And on the nights my stirring had woken him, Alastair lost no time in assuring me in gentle yet undisputable terms that such a conclusion was absolutely and entirely correct. My pulse quickened. I looked around the courtyard, pleased to see that Alastair was the only one in sight. As if he'd read my thoughts, Pan headbutted me in the shin. I smiled. All was right in the world again. Alastair, I'm sorely tempted to ship this cat of yours off to Nordenheath on the next available boat, I said. Mickla save us. He didn't turn around, but I heard the smile in his voice. Is Aliza Daired awake before noon? Against my will, I promise. Your cat has a lot to answer for. He glanced over his shoulder. Pan, I told you to leave her alone. Pan shrank under his master's stern look and dashed off into the tangle of rhododendrons hedging the courtyard. The greenery in close proximity to our chambers had grown unruly in the weeks following our wedding, no doubt a result of Alastair's instructions to the household staff regarding interruptions. They were simple.